Halloween is upon us. It's getting closer to Halloween. However, the 25th installment of Treehouse of Horror has ended, and I'm going to be reviewing it today on this Halloween episode of the Simpsons Episode Reviews.
Why me?
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Simpsons Episode Reviews. It is the very first Halloween episode, and today I'm going to be reviewing, of course, the 25th installment of Treehouse of Horror. And of course, I got the DVD that was released back in 2004, I believe. I gotta look at it. Excuse me. Alright, it says 2003, but oh well. It says 2003, but it doesn't really matter. So, of course, Treehouse of Horror always, every single year, has 3 segments. The first segment, of course, was School is Hell. So you're going down to hell with it. No, I'm just kidding. The second segment was A Clockwork Yellow, which is a parody of A Clockwork Orange, which I have not seen yet, but I eventually will see it probably sometime this week, because the thing about it, that segment, after watching it, makes me want to watch this movie. So I'll definitely be checking that out pretty soon. So that's the second segment, and the final segment was, of course, called The Others. What others? Well, you're going to have to find out for yourself. Now I'm going to tell you the plot of each 3 segments. School is Hell, of course, the plot has to do with Bart Simpson being taken down to hell after reading a description on the desk. And, of course, he's interested in this school that he is gone to, in this hell that he's in. What happens? What happens? You're going to have to find out for yourself once I talk about the episode. So, and of course, segment 2 was, of course, it's a parody of A Clockwork Orange, of course. And this has to do with Moe being the gang leader as Alex, and of course Homer, Lenny, and Carl as being his gang members. And of course the third segment is The Others, which has something to do with the modern day Simpsons and the pre-1989 Simpsons family. So, what happens in every single segment? Well, I'm going to tell you. However, if you've not seen the episode, or if you don't want to see the episode and just want to go on with the spoilers, it's up to you. But if you don't like being spoiled, this is not for you. So you may want to go to the end of the spoiler section and check out my review of each of the segments, because I'm going to be reviewing every single segment individually, and then I'm going to review the entire Treehouse of Horror episode as a whole. So, and no, I'm not going to whisper for these spoilers. School is Hell all starts with Bart in detention, and he actually picks on Principal Skinner, and after Principal Skinner leaves, Bart actually finds a description on one of the desks, and he basically asks Lisa for help, and Lisa uses her iPad to translate the description. And what happens next is Bart and Lisa end up going to hell. And as it turns out, it's a school, and surprisingly enough, it's a school that Bart is interested in. However, Lisa, on the other hand, doesn't really adapt to it. However, Bart does, and he excels in this new school. So he asked Homer and Marge to transfer to that school. And once Homer and Marge realize that the school is free, that's when Homer and Marge decide to transfer Bart. And what happens next is Bart excels, and there's one more exam. And the exam is to torture Bart. Bart has to torture, of course, his dad. And he actually does that with Homer's permission. He actually does. His father actually asks permission to do so. And that's what Bart does. And he actually ends up graduating because of it. And at the end of the segment, Homer is all mangled from the torture, while Bart is celebrating his graduation. And that's basically the entire segment of School is Hell in a nutshell. And here's some surprises you probably didn't know. I will tell you that Principal Skinner and Superintendent Chalmers were actually connected together in hell. They were actually two-headed. That was pretty cool. Which means Principal Skinner and Superintendent Chalmers, it was one body, but both their heads were connected to it, which was pretty cool in my opinion. That was in hell. And another thing was when Bart actually picked on Principal Skinner at the beginning of the episode, before Bart actually transferred to that one school in hell. And Principal Skinner was saying stuff to Bart, and Bart was laughing like crazy. And there was even this penis joke, which was actually quite funny. And that was actually awesome too. And that's pretty much it for School is Hell. Now I'm going to talk about A Clockwork Yellow. Now for this particular segment, there's going to be hardly anything to talk about. This is basically a parody of A Clockwork Orange. So if you've seen that movie, then you're going to be familiar with this particular segment. So, A Clockwork Yellow is about Moe, Homer, Lenny, and Carl being gang members. And these gang members actually attack people. And of course, Moe is the gang leader. And Moe's character is Alex from the movie A Clockwork Orange. However, when Moe's character, and Moe's character is called Dumb in this particular segment, when Homer's character falls in love with Marge, of course Marge appears in the segment, that's when the gang actually breaks up. And Moe gets depressed. But what ends up happening before the end of the segment, all of the gang members actually get back together, and they actually crash Mr. Burns' party. And of course, at the end of the segment, Stanley Kubrick actually appears in the segment at the very end. He actually has a cameo in this particular segment. And that's basically how the segment ends. And I'm sorry I couldn't talk to you about the story that much, because there was hardly anything to say. And I will tell you though, that there were some really funny moments in this particular segment that I really liked. I liked the part where they had one scene from Full Metal Jacket in that particular segment, and I thought that was funny for sure. And there was another part where was using a mask to cover up his you-know-what. And I thought that was funny too. And that's basically the segment, and that's all I can really say about it. Now the final segment is called The Others, and it's about the Simpsons family noticing something strange in their household. And it turns out that ghosts are actually haunting their house. And the ghosts that are haunting their house turns out to be pre-1989 design of the Simpsons family. And what happens next is Homer actually falls in love with pre-1989 Marge. And this doesn't make modern Marge happy. And Marge ends up dying as a result of cleaning the oven. And I don't know how modern Marge dies, but she actually dies. And what happens next is she becomes a ghost. And modern Marge notices that modern Homer is still flirting with pre-1989 Marge, even though pre-1989 Marge is a ghost. And this still doesn't make modern Marge happy. So modern Marge actually knocks out modern Homer while he is actually taking a bath, and modern Homer drowns. And he ends up becoming a ghost as a result. And then sometime later in the episode, Bart and Lisa actually die along with Maggie. And surprisingly enough, Groundskeeper Willie actually appears in this episode, carting off the bodies of Maggie, Lisa, and Bart. And now everybody's a ghost now. The modern Simpsons family are ghosts, and the pre-1989 Simpsons family are ghosts too. But then of course, modern Homer decides to stay in love with modern Marge, and decides that he actually wants modern Marge more. And that's basically what happened. And what happens at the end of the episode was actually pretty cool. Because what happens is the new family actually moves in, because of course the modern Simpsons family is dead, and the family that moves in next actually turns out to be a clone of the Simpsons family. And what happens almost at the end of the episode is different clones of the Simpsons family are outside the Simpsons house. And I thought that was pretty cool. And that was one of the best parts of the segment for sure. And of course, the Simpsons family, both the pre-1989 and the modern, actually get one huge picture all together, and then the credits roll. And that's how the segment ends. Now, before I end the spoilers, there are some things I do want to point out that you might have missed. Of course, the opening sequence was actually pretty good, and I did like that they parodied the openings for The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, there were some references, even though they were quite funny, to Married with Children. I thought that was pretty cool, where they were basically showing a animated episode of Married with Children, which I thought was pretty cool. And that was in the third segment. And I don't know for sure, but I do know that Maggie Simpson had the eyebrows either in the opening sequence. I don't know for a fact that Maggie was in the second segment, but if Maggie was, let me know. But I do know there were some characters that wore the eyelashes in that particular segment. I know that Nelson Muntz did, and I know that Maggie did in the opening sequence, but I'm not sure. Of course, the eyebrows are used in the movie A Clockwork Orange, which, of course, the second segment parodies. So, but that's basically it, and that's all I gotta say about whatever you missed, or whatever, or you might have missed. So, but that's pretty much the end of the spoilers. Now, I'm gonna talk about. Well, I shouldn't say talk about. I'm going to review each segment individually first, and then I'm going to review the entire Treehouse of Horror altogether. You know what? I'm just going to review this Treehouse of Horror as a whole, because you know what? All the segments were awesome. Even though A Clockwork Yellow was my least favorite segment, it was still awesome. Yes, it was my least favorite segment. However, it was still awesome because the thing about it, it was a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, it started slow. It really did. That's the reason why. That's the reason why I thought that the segment was my least favorite. However, it did pick up as the segment went along, and I really enjoyed that. And the thing about it, none of these segments were disappointing at all. I really enjoyed every single one of them. And surprisingly enough, this Treehouse of Horror was even better than last year's, because I watched the Treehouse of Horror from last year, and I didn't think it was as good. It didn't really make me laugh as much. However, this Treehouse of Horror did. It did not disappoint me at all. This is a highly recommended Treehouse of Horror installment that you should check out. And if Fox ever repeats it, go check it out. It is a lot of fun. As for the segments, I, of course, found the others to be my favorite segment, especially for the ending with the clones of the Simpsons family. It was awesome. And I gave that particular segment 4 stars out of 4, even though it's not that 5-star that I would give it, because the thing about it, it's not quite a Simpsons classic. I'm only gonna give 5 stars to an episode or a segment, if it's a Treehouse of Horror segment, of course, that I feel that's if I feel that it's a Simpsons classic, I will give it that 5-star. And the rest of the segments, I gave 3.5 stars out of 4. And these segments were all awesome. School as Hell was a lot of fun. A Clockwork Yellow was a lot of fun, even though it started off slow. And the others was a lot of fun too. All these segments were a lot of fun. This Treehouse of Horror did not disappoint me at all, and I highly recommend that you check this Treehouse of Horror out. Now, I did not give this a 4 stars out of 4, but it's close to it. It really is. I actually gave this Treehouse of Horror installment, of course, this of course is Treehouse of Horror 25. I gave this Treehouse of Horror 3.5 stars out of 4, even though it's actually close to that 4-star rating. Because the thing about it, it's pretty close for sure. This did not disappoint me. This was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So if you see this on Hulu Plus or eventually on Hulu, definitely check it out. And if it ever re-airs on Fox, I highly recommend that you watch it. You will really enjoy this Treehouse of Horror episode. So that's basically it for this Treehouse of Horror. And I hopefully we'll be reviewing the next Treehouse of Horror next year. So that's it for this special Halloween review of the 25th installment of Treehouse of Horror. I hope you really enjoyed it. And I will tell you that if you're interested in more Treehouse of Horror, there's going to be a marathon on FXX this Sunday. And it is the first Treehouse of Horror to the 24th installment of Treehouse of Horror. But I do want to remind you that the older Treehouse of Horror episodes are cropped to fit the 16:9 widescreen that we all have today. So if you don't like that particular thing, you can get out your DVDs and definitely check out some Treehouse of Horror episodes. Or, I got it right here, you can actually, if you have this, you can actually watch at least 4 of the Treehouse of Horror installments on here without any cropping at all. This, by the way, this is available if you are interested in buying it. I may do a review on it next year, because this year I'm not going to do that, because I got other things to do and there's no time for it. But I do recommend that you definitely watch some Treehouse of Horror episodes even around Halloween, because Halloween is actually next week, surprisingly enough, and people are going to go trick-or-treating. However, I don't go trick-or-treating anymore, sadly, but that's okay. I'll probably watch some more Treehouse of Horror episodes that I really enjoy. I'll probably, you know what, I think sometime this week I'm going to check out rewatch, I should say, Treehouse of Horror 5, because I really enjoyed that particular episode. And it's definitely one of my favorite Treehouse of Horror episodes. And I may actually watch Treehouse of Horror 9 again, because I actually watched that this year and it was a lot of fun. So, but that's basically it. And I hope you enjoy your Halloween, because this is going to be the last Simpsons episode review for this month. But I will tell you, the next time I will be reviewing a new episode, it will be in November. And the next episode I will be reviewing is Opposite a Frack. And that is the 557th episode of The Simpsons. And that will be airing on November 2nd. So if you are still watching The Simpsons on Fox, I highly recommend that you check out the new episode of The Simpsons on November 2nd, which of course is called Opposite the Frack. So that's it. I hope you all enjoy your Halloween. Hopefully you'll be watching some Treehouse of Horror episodes. And I will catch you in November for another Simpsons episode review. So peace out and happy Halloween to you all. Peace.